Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is Paul Pastelok, Senior Meteorologist at Accuweather. Paul, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me today.
First of all, happy Groundhog Day. Punxatawney Phil, to many people's delight, did not see his shadow, meaning he's predicting an early spring. Before we dive into how true that is, what's your reaction as a meteorologist?
As a meteorologist, well, I think, and I've said this many times in interviews, I think he has his short-term eyeglasses on and not his long-term. He might be right here over the next couple of weeks, but I think he's missing the boat a little bit as we get later on into the late winter season.
Okay, that sort of answers my next question, which is a fun fact that NOAA said that Phil only has a 30% accuracy rate over the past 10 years. So do you see any truth in his predictions? Dive a little deeper in what you mean by he has his short-term glasses on.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, is he talking about one part of the country? Is he talking about the whole country? We got 6 weeks officially of winter still to go, and so there's going to be some areas that are wintry and some areas that are going in right into spring. And in fact, just yesterday we saw a high temperature of 72 in St. Louis. They should be in the 30s this time of the year. So they are seeing some spring weather right now, and I think that we're going to see parts of the country, at least, well, actually a large parts of the country early on is going to be above normal on temperatures. I mean, we're going to see 20 to 30 degrees above in the upper Midwest and northern plains, and even parts of the Northeast are going to be above. We're not going to see a lot of snow falling in these areas as well. But as we head towards the middle of the month, there is a lot of things that are starting to come together. We're seeing the pieces, and as they do come together, I think we're going to have bigger confidence here that a change from the Midwest to the East Coast could be turning colder and possibly getting some more snow back in the picture.
Ooh, so let's break that down. Let's start in the Northeast here. That's
Okay.
where I'm from. I am not particularly liking the cold weather, so I was happy when he did not see his shadow this morning. But can we in the Northeast officially hang up our jackets, our gloves? What does the forecast look like for us?
I don't think so. I think you got to hang on a little bit longer. I think a lot of my team feels the same way. As you get towards Valentine's, it's going to be a storm that comes up between the 12th and the 14th of February, and it looks like it's going to track through the Mid-Atlantic. I think that could be the start of the change that we're going to see for the second half of February and the first week or two of March. It could bring a little bit of snow mixed with rain, and then the colder air starts coming in from the north. What we're seeing is modeling is supporting higher pressure in western North America. And if you look at the map, where we're going to get this cold, it's got to come over the pole. Okay, it's got to come in from Alaska. So we need something to form there to pull it down. And eventually we think, we're seeing that on the modeling right now, that could happen in the second half of February. We start getting the cold. It doesn't take much this time of the year to get precipitation in the form of snow and sleet and ice. So that's something we're watching for later on in February, especially after the Valentine time period.
So later on in February, brace yourself if you're in the Northeast. But what about early March, the beginning of spring there? Is it looking like it'll be nicer weather, heavy activity? What's that look like?
Yeah, some of the what we call teleconnections that we look at, it looks that this wants to hang on this period all the way into the first at least 10 days of March. So the start of March coming in like a lion in the Northeast, and then eventually we'll start to ease back in the middle of the month. And we do think, based on what we've seen so far this winter, it could turn around very quickly. I mean, we can go right into spring really quick after we get through this window from late February into the start of March.
So March in like a lion, as you said. Let's turn now to Tornado Alley. Will there be some heavy activity there?
Yeah, we're looking at a season where it kind of starts out a little bit slow as far as the number of tornadoes go in March and April. Probably near to just slightly below on the tornado output. The reason why is because the northern Gulf of Mexico is a little bit cooler than it has been in recent years, so it's going to take a little time before things start getting together and the moisture, the warm air starts coming out of the Gulf, greeting some of these systems coming in from the west. But as we get later into the season, into the spring season, it looks like Tornado Alley may start to ignite, and we may have some issues there and maybe an uptick in the tornado output and the events that take place, especially as we get into May and June.
Why do you think we're seeing an uptick there, or is it too early to tell?
Well, the reason is the storm track is going to be more favorable coming out of the southwest at that time point. And also, we need the winds to come more out of the Gulf of Mexico. The El Nino that's going on right now is going to have more of a west to east pattern setting up. A lot of storms going across the south, keeping things a little bit more stable for that matter. But when that starts to ease back later on in the season and the waters warm even more in the Gulf of Mexico, then we could see a return flow and the possibility of that uptick.
So now let's move even further west. How is the rest of winter / early spring shaping up for the rest of the country?
Well, it looks very busy in the short term here in the Southern California especially. It looks like they're going to have another round of some very heavy rainfall later on this weekend into the start of next week. And then it looks like as we get into the middle part of February and latter part of February, we'll see some storms coming out of the southwest and tracking toward the southeast. So it looks very busy, and there could be still a little bit of snow or ice, a possibility in parts of the Tennessee Valley, maybe the southern Appalachians. In the west, the mountains, the ski areas, they're averaging just near, maybe slightly below on their snowfall this year, but I think they'll pick it up here over the next month and a half, and ski season may go right into the first part of spring for parts of the Central Rockies.
Well, that's good news for snowbirds, it sounds like, but I am curious. You are the lead U.S. long-range forecaster. It sounds like, as you said, that Punxatawney Phil did have his short-term glasses on, but are these trends that you're tracking throughout the country, are they more par for the course, or is anything surprising you?
No, actually, if you go back to our winter forecast back in September, we called for a back end to the winter season. And there was a lot of support from the years that we matched up for this year and also some of the forecast models that look like February could be pretty active. And we're seeing that already in Southern California, actually most of California, with several inches of snow in the mountains as well. But really no surprises just yet. The start time of this for the east is a little bit later, but in any case, it still looks like it's coming for the second half of February into the start of March.
That's really interesting because for me personally, I have been in the Northeast my whole life, and after Christmas, I really don't want to see snow again. So why is the back end of winter so active this year?
Well, it's been kind of the same case last year, trying to find the cold. We've had our source regions have been missing the cold. In fact, if you look at the Canadian prairies and the northern plains and upper Midwest, there's been a lack of snow across those areas. And with the lack of snow, we just haven't been able to keep persistent cold. We had that one bout in the middle of January that it got pretty cold, but that's it. And so if you can't bring the cold ingredient into the factor, you have a result of what we saw in December. A lot of storms coming up the East Coast, but mostly rain, right? So now we have the potential to get some of that cold air that's on the other side of the pole, crossing over, meeting with these systems, and then we get the back end. And that's been kind of the case here with a lot of our winners in the past 10 years.
And Paul, before I let you go, is there anything else that's on your radar you want to put on ours? And what are you looking out for directly next?
Well, I think the big thing is to keep alerting people, even though the Groundhog says spring is arriving. Yes, I mean, we are going to see some mild weather early on, but don't get caught into that because I think there could be some changes. Lots of winter still to go here. And one or two big storms still possible for the East Coast. And that can cause, again, your traveling plans and any plans that you might have to do. And then also the West Coast. Remember, it hasn't been that very active in California. You look at the past El Ninos of the past, they were very active. It kind of stalled a little bit in January. Now we're picking it up here at the end of January and February. And the potential for flooding does exist in parts of the state going forward here for the next couple of weeks.
So, Paul, you're saying get your weather forecast from an actual meteorologist and not a furry groundhog. Duly noted. Thank you so much for talking with us. And Paul Pastelok, you are welcome back anytime.
Sounds great. I'll be here.